My name is Natalie. I am 34 years old. I want to tell you something about my life. It is not easy to say. I do not feel proud, but it is my truth. I married 2 times. I tried to be happy. I wanted love, but love did not stay with me. I am still in pain. I met my first husband when I was 25. His name was Brian. He was friendly and smart. He asked me many questions. He made me smile. We met in a simple way. I was waiting for the bus. He was also there. He said, "It's a long wait today." I laughed and said, "Yes, it is." Then we talked. He called me the next day. I said yes to meet again. We walked in the park. We talked about music and food. He liked tea. I liked coffee. We laughed. He held my hand. I thought he was a good man. After 8 months, we got married. The first days were nice. He brought fruit from the market. We went for short walks. We watched movies. We cooked dinner together. I smiled a lot in those days. I thought, yes, this is love. This is life. But after some time, things started to change. He stayed quiet. He went out more. He came home late. He looked tired. When I asked, "Is everything okay?" he just said, "I'm fine." But I could feel something was wrong. He did not listen when I talked. He did not ask me about my day. He looked at his phone a lot. We ate dinner in silence. I tried to make him happy. I made his favorite food. I asked, "Do you want to go out this weekend?" He said, "I'm busy." One evening I said, "Brian, do you still love me?" He looked at me and said, "Don't ask silly things." Then he left the room. I sat there alone. The food on the table was cold. My heart felt cold too. I wanted to cry, but no tears came. For many months I waited. I thought maybe things would get better, but they didn't. We lived in the same home, but we were not close. It felt like I was just a person in the room, not a wife, not someone he cared for. I felt lost. One day I said, "I can't live like this. I feel alone." He said nothing. He looked away. I said, "I want a divorce." He said, "Do what you want." And that was it. After 3 years of marriage, it ended like that. No fight, no goodbye, just silence. I moved to a new place. It was small, but it was mine. I sat on the floor the first night. I looked around. It was quiet. I felt sad, but I also felt safe. For the first time in a long time, I could breathe. For 1 year, I stayed alone. I went for walks. I listened to music. I read books. I tried to understand myself. I told myself, next time I will choose better. I will not rush. I will wait for the right man. Then I met another man. His name was Kevin. He had a warm smile. He spoke kindly. He helped old people cross the road. He gave his seat to others on the bus. I thought, he is different. He is kind. We met at a friend's small dinner. We sat next to each other. He asked about my job. I asked about his family. We talked for hours. He made me laugh. He looked into my eyes. I felt something new, something gentle. He called me the next day. He asked, "Can I see you again?" I said yes. We went to a small cafe. We sat by the window. He talked about his love for old movies. I listened. I smiled. I thought, maybe this time it will be okay. After 1 year, we got married. It was a small wedding. Just close friends. I wore a soft pink dress. He wore a gray jacket. We held hands and said, "I do." I felt happy. I really did. I thought, this is a new start. But soon I saw it again. The silence, the distance, the cold. He worked long hours. He came home late. He ate quickly and went to bed. I asked, "How was your day?" He said, "Just work." I waited for more words, but he said nothing. I started eating alone. He said he was too tired. He stopped asking how I felt. When I said, "I feel lonely," he just said, "You think too much." That line again. The same line from my first husband. You think too much. I could not believe it. I had married again. I had tried again. But I was back in the same place. A home with no joy. A table with no talk. A bed with no love. I felt tired. Not just in my body, but in my soul. One evening I made dinner. I waited for him. He came in and said, "I ate outside." He looked at his phone. I said, "Do you want to sit with me?" He said, "I need to sleep early." I sat there alone, looking at the food. I felt empty. I remembered my first home, the one I had after the divorce. It was small, but I felt calm there. Now I had a bigger place, but I felt lost again. 2 men, 2 homes. 2 times I gave my heart. 2 times it broke. I started to change. I stopped cooking for 2. I stopped waiting. I stopped hoping. I started going for walks alone. I sat in the park and watched people. I saw children laugh. I saw old couples holding hands. I wanted that, but I did not have it. Sometimes I asked myself, is something wrong with me? But no. I know I gave my best. I know I loved with all I had. But love is not just about trying. it is also about who you choose. Now, I am still married, but I feel alone again. I live in a house, but it does not feel like a home. I speak, but no one listens. I smile, but only in front of others. I do not know what comes next, but I know I am tired. I wanted love. I wanted peace. I thought marriage would give me both, but it didn't. I married twice, but I am still in pain. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. I woke up early one morning. The sun was shining, but my heart was heavy. Kevin was still asleep. He always slept late on weekends. I looked at him. He looked peaceful, but I did not feel close to him. We had been married for 2 years now. I tried to be a good wife. I made breakfast. I cleaned the home. I smiled when he came back from work, but I did not feel seen. I did not feel loved. One day I asked, "Do you love me?" Kevin looked at me. He said, "You always ask this." I said, "Because I don't feel it." He stood up and said, "I work hard. That is love." Then he left the room. I sat alone at the table. I drank my tea slowly. I wanted to feel something. I wanted to believe him, but I could not. Love is not just work. Love is not just coming home. Love is care. Love is listening. Love is time. That week he came home late every night. He said work was busy. I asked, "Can we have dinner together one night?" He said, "Maybe next week." But that week never came. On Sunday, I went to see my old friend. Her name is Sophie. We sat in her kitchen. She made tea. She looked at me and said, "You look sad." I said, "I feel empty." She held my hand. She said, "Tell me what is wrong." I told her everything. I told her about Ryan. I told her about Kevin. I told her how I felt alone in both homes. She listened. She did not speak for a long time. Then she said, "You give too much, Natalie, but they do not give back." Her words stayed in my head. All night I thought about them. You give too much. It was true. I gave time. I gave care. I gave love. But what did I get back? Silence. Cold words. A quiet table. A quiet bed. I started walking every morning. I needed to breathe. I needed to think. The park near my home was quiet. I liked to sit on the bench and watch the trees. I watched people walk with dogs. I watched children run. I liked the sound of laughter. It made me feel human. One day I saw an old couple. They walked slowly, side by side. The man held the woman's hand. She smiled at him. He looked at her with love. I felt a tear on my cheek. I wanted that. just simple love. Real love. That evening, Kevin came home early. I was surprised. I said, "You're home before dinner." He said, "Yes." "I'm tired." I asked, "Can we talk?" He said, "Not now. My head hurts." Then he went to the bedroom. I stood there. I looked at the food on the stove. I turned it off. I sat down on the floor. I felt small. I felt like nothing. My voice had no place in this house. My heart had no room to rest. A few days later, I tried again. I said, "Kevin, we do not talk. We do not laugh. We are like two people in one house, not one life." He looked at me and said, "What do you want from me?" I said, "I want to feel loved." He said, "Love is not always loud." Then he left the room again. After that, I stopped asking. I stopped waiting. I stopped hoping. I made food just for me. I watched movies alone. I went to the park alone. I started reading books again. I started writing small thoughts in my phone. I wanted to find my voice again. One day Sophie came to visit me. She looked around and said, "It feels quiet here." I said, "Yes. It is always quiet now." She looked at me and said, "Do you want to stay in this life?" I looked at her. I said, "I don't know." I did not know. I was tired of breaking. I was tired of hoping. I was tired of starting again. But I also did not want to stay in a place where love did not live. Kevin did not notice the change. Or maybe he did not care. I do not know. He ate his food. He went to work. He came home and sat with his phone. I stopped trying to speak. I had no more words. One morning, I looked in the mirror. My face looked older. My eyes looked sad. I said to myself, "You are still young. You still have time. Do not waste it in silence." That day, I packed a small bag. I left the house. I went to Sophie's place. I stayed there for a few days. Kevin did not call. He did not ask where I went. He did not ask if I was okay. On the fourth day, he sent a message. It said, "Are you coming back?" "No, how are you?" "No, I miss you." Just, "Are you coming back?" I did not reply. I did not know what to say. Sophie said, "You do not have to go back if it hurts you." I nodded. I knew she was right, but it was hard. I had married again. I had tried again. And now I had to leave again. It felt like I failed. Again. But deep in my heart, I knew this was not failure. This was truth. This was me learning. This was me choosing peace. And peace is not failure. Peace is love for myself. I sat on Sophie's sofa. I looked out the window. I saw the trees move in the wind. I took a deep breath. I closed my eyes. I said to myself, "You will be okay. Kevin never called again. Not once. Not even to ask why I left. That told me everything. He was never really with me. Just like Ryan. 2 men. 2 chances. 2 times I gave my heart, but no one held it with care. Now, I am still with Sophie. I am thinking about my next steps. I do not want to rush. I do not want to marry again. I want time. Time to heal. Time to grow. Time to find myself. Maybe one day I will love again. But now, I just want to feel free. I want to wake up in a place where I feel safe. Where I can smile for real. Where I can speak and be heard. Where love is not just a word, but a feeling. I married twice, but I am still in pain. I want to stop the pain. I want to find peace. And this time, I will look for it in me. I stayed with Sophie for some more time. Her home was small, but it felt warm. We talked each night. We ate simple food. We watched old shows and laughed. I had not laughed like that in a long time. She never asked me to go back. She said, "Take your time." I was thankful for her. She was the only person who truly saw me. She did not tell me what to do. She only listened. One morning, I woke up and looked out the window. It was raining. The sky was gray, but I felt calm. I sat with my tea and thought about my life. I thought about both my marriages, and I asked myself, why did I stay so long? I stayed because I was scared. I did not want to be alone. I stayed because I hoped things would get better. I stayed because I thought love must always hurt. But now I know real love should not feel like this. After some days, I told Sophie, I want to look for my own place. She smiled and said, I will help you. We spent 2 weeks looking. Then we found a small flat. It had 1 bedroom, a kitchen, and a little balcony. It was simple, but I liked it. I moved in with just a few things. I placed my cup near the window. I put a soft blanket on the chair. I made the bed with white sheets. That night, I sat on the balcony. I looked at the stars. I felt peace. No one shouted. No one walked away. No one said I was too much. It was quiet, but it was not the cold kind of quiet. It was the soft kind, the safe kind. I made new plans for my days. I went for walks in the morning. I bought fresh fruit from the market. I sat in the park and watched the trees move. I started reading again. I started smiling more. Sometimes the pain came back. It came like a soft wind. It touched my heart. But I did not fight it. I sat with it. I let it pass. I said, you are part of me, but you do not control me. One day, I met an older woman in the park. She was sitting on the bench beside mine. We looked at the flowers. She smiled and said, they grow slow, but they always bloom. I smiled back. I said, yes. They just need care. She nodded and said, just like people. We sat in silence for a while. Then she asked, do you live near? I said, yes. Just 2 streets from here. She said, I come here often. I lost my husband last year. I looked at her and said, I lost 2, but in a different way. She touched my hand and said, you are still young. You will grow strong again. Her words felt soft, but they stayed with me. I thought of them that night. I whispered them to myself before sleep. Some days later, Kevin sent me a message. He said, are you okay? I looked at the screen. I did not feel sad. I did not feel angry. I just felt nothing. I did not reply. I did not want to open that door again. That night, I thought about how far I had come. I had cried so much. I had begged for love. I had waited in silence. Now, I was alone, but not broken. I was still healing, but I was no longer lost. One afternoon, I saw a woman in the store. She looked at me and said, Natalie? I said yes. She said, it's me, Zoe. We went to school together. I smiled. I remembered her. We talked for a few minutes. She said, I live nearby now. We should meet again. I said yes. The next week, we met at the cafe near my street. We talked about school, about life, and about love. She said, I got divorced last year. I said, I did too. Twice. We laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it felt good to speak the truth. She said, it's not easy. I said, no, it's not. But we smiled. We understood each other. After that, we met every week. We walked in the park. We talked for hours. She said, I thought I was the only one. I said, me too. But we were not alone. There were others like us. Women who tried. Women who gave. Women who hoped. We just never talked about it before. But now we did. And that helped. Talking helped. Listening helped. Being seen helped. One evening, I sat on my balcony again. I looked at the street. I saw a little boy ride a bike. His father ran behind him and clapped. I smiled. I did not feel sad. I just felt peace. I did not know what would come next, but I was okay with that. I was not waiting for a man. I was not waiting for love. I was learning to love myself. That was enough for now. One morning, I looked in the mirror again. My eyes looked soft. My face looked strong. I said to myself, you are still healing, but you are not weak. You are not broken. I married twice. I gave my heart twice. I lost myself twice. But now I am coming back to me. Slowly, gently, fully, and this time I will not lose myself again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon. My name is Sarah. I am 38 years old. I live in a small town called River Hill. It is a quiet place with green trees and small shops. I have 2 children. My husband is Daniel. He is 43 years old. We have been married for 15 years. When we got married, I was very happy. Daniel was sweet and gentle. He brought me flowers. He cooked dinner on Sundays. He always looked at me and said, "You are my love." I smiled and felt lucky. I thought we would always be happy. We lived in a small house near the park. I loved our home. It was warm and full of light. After 2 years, we had our first child, a baby boy. We named him Noah. He was quiet and kind. He liked books and birds. I stayed at home to care for him. Daniel went to work every day at the bank. 2 years later, we had a daughter. Her name is Emma. She loves music. She sings all the time. She is full of joy. I spent my days with the children. I cooked, cleaned, and taught them numbers and words. Daniel worked hard. He came home late but always kissed the children goodnight. In those early years, I felt happy. Tired, but happy. Life was busy, but it was good. We had dinners together. On weekends, we went to the lake. We ate ice cream and watched ducks. Daniel and I held hands. I believed our love was strong. But slowly, things changed. Daniel began working more. He said, "I have a lot to do at the office." He stopped eating dinner with us. He stopped smiling at me. He looked tired, angry, or just quiet. I asked him, "Is everything okay?" He said, "I'm fine. Don't worry." At first, I believed him. I thought, maybe work is hard. Maybe he just needs time. But it got worse. He came home late almost every night. He stopped calling me during the day. He didn't look at me the same way. I missed him. I missed the man who brought me flowers. I missed his warm voice. I felt like I was living with a shadow. He was there, but far away. One day, I found a receipt in his coat pocket. It was for a hotel in a city 2 hours away. The name on the bill was not Daniel's. It said, "Room for Mr. D. Taylor and Ms. Clara." My heart jumped. My hands shook. I waited for him to come home. I showed him the paper and asked, "Who is Clara?" He looked at me and said, "She's just a coworker. It was a work trip. Nothing more." I didn't believe him. But I said, "Okay." I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to break my family. At that time, Noah was 5 and Emma was 3. They were small. They needed both of us. Weeks passed. I tried to smile. I tried to stay strong. But I cried at night when the children were asleep. I cried in the kitchen while washing dishes. I looked at Daniel and saw a stranger. I didn't know him anymore. He stopped telling me where he was going. He turned off his phone. He said, "I'm tired of all these questions." I said nothing. What could I say? I started to feel empty. I cleaned the house, but it didn't feel like home. I cooked meals, but they had no taste. I took the kids to school and smiled at other parents, but inside, I was broken. One afternoon, I went to the market. I saw a man from my past. His name was Mark. We went to the same school many years ago. He smiled at me and said, "Sarah, is that you?" I smiled too. "Yes, it's me." He was kind. He asked, "How are you?" I wanted to say, "I'm fine," but something inside me broke. I looked at him and said, "I don't know." He didn't laugh. He didn't change the subject. He looked into my eyes and said, "If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here." I nodded. I walked away, but his words stayed with me. That night, I sat by the window. The children were asleep. Daniel was not home. I looked at the stars and felt very small. I whispered, "What happened to my life?" I thought about Mark, about his kind eyes, about his quiet voice. I didn't want anything from him. I just wanted someone to care, someone to listen. A few days later, I saw Mark again. He was at the cafe. I was alone, so I walked in. He waved at me. I sat with him. We talked. Not much. Just simple things. The weather, books, our town. But his words felt warm. He asked, "How are your children?" I smiled. "They are my joy." He said, "You are strong. I can see it." I felt tears in my eyes. No one had said that to me in a long time. We met once a week, sometimes at the park, sometimes at the cafe. Nothing happened. No gifts, no promises. Just words. Just kindness. I started to feel alive again. I laughed. I felt the sun on my face. I listened to the birds sing. I looked in the mirror and saw someone I remembered. But one evening, Daniel came home early. He saw a message from Mark on my phone. Just a simple message. "Hope your day was good." Daniel became angry. He shouted, "Who is this man? Are you seeing someone?" I looked at him and said, "I needed someone to talk to. You were not there." He didn't speak. He walked away. That night we had a long talk. For the first time in years, Daniel looked at me. His eyes were red. He said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know you were so hurt." I said, "You didn't ask. You didn't see me." He sat down and held my hand. "I still love you," he said. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to feel something, but my heart felt quiet. It was tired. It didn't trust easily anymore. And that is how part of my life changed. Not with a big event, but with many small cracks that grew over time. I don't know what will happen next, but I know I want peace. After that night, Daniel started to change. He came home earlier. He helped with dinner. He asked, "Do you want tea?" These were small things, but I noticed them. I didn't say much, but I saw he was trying. He even helped Noah with his homework and listened to Emma sing. He smiled more. Not like before, but something soft. I didn't know if I could trust it. I wanted to, but my heart still hurt. One Sunday morning, he asked, "Do you want to take a walk with me?" We hadn't walked together in years. I said yes. We walked near the lake. The sky was blue. Ducks swam in the water. People rode bikes and laughed. I watched them. I felt like I was looking into another world. Daniel said, "I miss this. I miss us." I looked at him. I didn't know what to say. I just nodded. He took my hand slowly. I didn't pull away, but it felt strange. His hand was warm, but my heart was cold. "I was wrong," he said. "I let work take everything. I didn't see you were alone." I whispered, "Yes." We walked in silence after that. In the evening, he cooked dinner. Emma was excited. "Daddy is cooking," she said. We ate together. Noah told a joke, and we all laughed. It felt nice. For one moment, it felt like the past. A warm table, happy children, smiles. But later, when I was alone in the bathroom, I looked at myself in the mirror. I asked, "Do I still love him?" I didn't know the answer. One day, Emma came to me with a drawing. It was of our family, me, Daniel, Noah, and her, all holding hands. She smiled. "We are happy," she said. I hugged her and kissed her cheek. I didn't want her to see my tears. Later, I asked Noah, "Do you think your dad and I are happy?" He looked surprised. "I don't know," he said. "You're always nice to each other, but sometimes you look sad." He was only 10, but he saw so much. That night I cried again, quietly. I didn't want anyone to hear. A few days later, I met Mark again. I hadn't seen him since Daniel found out. I didn't plan to meet him. It just happened. I was at the grocery store, and he was there with his son. He smiled and said, "Hi." I said, "Hello." We talked for a few minutes. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "I hope you're okay." I nodded. "Thank you. I'm trying." He looked at me gently and said, "You are strong, Sarah. Don't forget that." Then we said goodbye. That evening, I told Daniel I had seen Mark. I didn't want secrets. He didn't get angry. He only asked, "Do you still think about him?" I said, "No. I think about how he made me feel. Like I mattered." Daniel looked down. Then he said, "I want to give you that too." For the first time, I believed he meant it. He started doing more things at home. He helped Emma with her songs. He fixed the broken door in the kitchen. He asked me how my day was. Sometimes he brought home small gifts, a book, a flower, a new cup for my tea. Nothing big, but thoughtful. He said, "You don't need to thank me. You deserve this." I wanted to smile, and sometimes I did, but still, my heart was slow to open. One night, I got very sick. I had a high fever and strong pain in my chest. Daniel rushed me to the hospital. He stayed with me the whole night. He held my hand. He didn't sleep. He just sat there and said, "Please don't leave me." Tears ran down his face. "I still love you," he whispered. I closed my eyes. I remembered those words from so long ago, back when we were young, when life was simple. In the morning, I felt better. The doctor said it was a chest infection. Nothing too serious, but something in my heart had changed. I saw fear in Daniel's eyes. I saw love too. Maybe broken love. Maybe old love. But it was still there. When we got home, he made soup and told me to rest. He sat with me in the bedroom and read from a book. Emma came in and hugged me. Noah brought me water. I felt cared for. Later that week, I took a walk alone. I thought about my life, about all the years that passed, about the happy moments and the sad ones, about Mark, about Daniel, about my children. I sat on a bench near the river. Leaves danced in the wind. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I asked myself, can I forgive? Can I heal? I didn't have the full answer, but I knew I wanted peace. That night I talked to Daniel. I said, "We need to be honest with each other." He nodded. "Yes, we do." I asked, "Do you really want this marriage, or are you just afraid to lose it?" He looked at me and said, "I want you, not just the idea of us. I want to make it right." I asked, "Can you forget the other woman? Can you give me the care I need?" He said, "I will try." I shook my head. "Trying is not enough. I need you to mean it." He looked into my eyes. "Then I will. I promise." And from that day, things began to shift. We didn't become perfect, but we started to walk together again. We had small talks about the weather, about school, about our past. He asked me about the books I liked. He said, "Tell me about your dreams." No one had asked me that in years. One evening, he surprised me with a dinner outside. Just the two of us. By the river, he brought a blanket, sandwiches, and tea. We sat under the stars. He said, "Thank you for staying. Thank you for giving me a second chance." I looked at him. He was not the same man I married, and I was not the same woman. But maybe we could build something new, not from the past, But from now, weeks passed. Life at home was quiet, but different. Daniel continued to help more. He cleaned the dishes. He folded laundry. He walked Emma to school. These were small things, but they mattered to me. He no longer stayed late at work. He spent his evenings at home. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we sat in silence. But the silence was soft, not cold. I still had doubts. My heart was not fully open. Sometimes when I looked at him, I still remembered the pain, the hotel receipt, the nights I cried alone, the way he had once walked past me like I didn't exist. But I also remembered the hospital, his hand in mine, his words, "Please don't leave me." Forgiving him was not easy. I wanted to forget, but I couldn't. I could forgive, but the memory stayed. One day, I stood in front of the mirror. I looked at my face. I looked tired, but also strong. I said to myself, "Sarah, you are not perfect, but you are trying. You are doing your best." I wanted peace, not just for my family, but for myself. That week, I wrote a letter to myself, just for me. It said, "Dear Sarah, you are strong. You are kind. You are important. You lived through pain and didn't give up. You cried, but you kept going. You wanted love, and you still do. Don't be ashamed. Love yourself first. Then you can love others. You deserve happiness. Don't forget that." I folded the letter and placed it in my drawer. Now, when I feel sad, I read it again. Some days are better than others. Some days, I smile without thinking. Other days, I feel tired. But that's okay. Life is not always easy. I learned to accept that. I also started doing things for myself. I began walking alone in the morning. I went to the library and borrowed books. I listened to soft music and drank tea in silence. One day, I bought a notebook. I wrote my thoughts in it every night. I didn't hide my feelings. I wrote the truth. Sometimes I wrote, "I am still hurt." Other times I wrote, "Today, I felt happy." I let all the feelings come. I didn't stop them. Emma once asked me, "Mom, why do you write in your book every night?" I smiled and said, "Because it helps me feel better." She nodded and said, "Maybe I will do that too." Noah also changed. He became more open. He talked to Daniel more. They played games together on weekends. I watched them and felt thankful. I knew our family had broken once, but maybe it could heal. Not go back to how it was, but become something new. One evening, Daniel brought me a small box. Inside was a necklace with a simple heart. He said, "This is not to say sorry. This is to say thank you for not giving up on me." I held the necklace in my hand. I said, "Thank you for learning to see me again. He placed it around my neck. That night we sat on the sofa with the children. We watched an old movie. Emma sang along with the music. Noah laughed at the jokes. I looked at my family. I felt a small light inside. Not a fire, just a soft light. But it was enough. Some days I still thought about Mark. I didn't miss him as a person. I missed the way he made me feel seen. But I knew I had said goodbye. He was part of a time when I felt lost. He gave me kindness when I needed it. For that, I would always be grateful. But now, I was finding kindness in my own life again. Slowly, carefully. Daniel was not perfect. I was not perfect. But we were both trying. One Saturday morning, we cleaned the house together. Emma played music, and we all sang. I caught Daniel smiling at me, not with guilt, but with care. Later, when we had tea in the garden, he said, "I know I hurt you. I don't ask you to forget. I only ask for a chance to build something new with you." I said, "One day at a time." He nodded. "That's enough." And it was. Now I don't dream of a perfect life. I don't wait for flowers or big words. I look for small moments. A quiet morning. A warm cup of tea. My children's laughter. A walk by the river. I know love is not just a feeling. Love is care. Love is time. Love is listening. Love is respect. I also know this. I am strong. I can survive sadness. I can find light again. I can learn to trust myself. My heart is still healing, but it is not broken. I take life one day at a time. I try to smile. I try to rest. I try to be kind to others and to myself. If you are reading this, maybe you feel lost too. Maybe you feel tired. Please remember this. You are not alone. You are strong, and you deserve love. Start with yourself. One small step, one quiet moment, one day at a time. And maybe, just maybe, the light will return. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.